Welcome to Inspiring Possible. I'm Christy Pennison, former stuck person turned therapist and dream consultant. Are you feeling stuck, overwhelmed, uncertain, or just need a little inspiration? Then I want to help you gain the clarity, confidence, and courage to create possibilities and live a life you love. Because folks, life's too short to be miserable.
Welcome back, Inspiring Possible people. I'm so excited that you have chosen another time to come on and listen to this podcast. Honestly, this podcast is for you. That's why we pull up to the table and have really great conversations with super cool people to help you reimagine what's possible for your life. And today is going to be no exception. I have somebody who I've already been talking to before we push this record button. And he actually gave me a hint that maybe I should start pushing record because we have already had such great conversations. So I knew you're going to really enjoy this guest. But if you have ever been somebody who maybe you've been following a path for your life, or maybe you were told that this is the way you should walk in your life, or this is what you should do in your life, but something about it maybe is not 100% fulfilling. Maybe you think, I may want to try something different. Or I just wonder if I made this one decision, how life could work out differently for me. Then you have come to the right place today, because I have not only an entrepreneur, an investor, now an author, a host of the Roll with Steve podcast, who helps people rethink what's possible for their lives. And so I'm really excited to welcome Steve Rolle to the show, because we're going to dive into a book he actually has recently about to launch. Maybe by the time this episode is live, it will be out in stores and you can go get it. The Future You Choose. So welcome to the show, Steve.
Christy, you're an amazing host. Thank you for the nice introduction. It's great to be here with you.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad to have you, because you know what? I think, we were talking before we push this record button about, it's interesting to think about at what point in your life do you feel like you have agency over your life, which means that you get to choose how you want this one life. I mean, at least that's what I think we got one shot at this. We don't know. I mean, we'll see when we get to the other side if we got a repeat later. But like this one life, how do we get to choose what we want to do next? And I think sometimes, I don't know about you, but there were points in time in my life where I didn't think that I had a choice. I was like, this is the path. This is where I'm supposed to go. So maybe tell us a little bit about your story and how you started choosing more of your future.
Yeah, the reason I chose the topic and the title, The Future You Choose, is because I went through the same journey that you just articulated. And I believe really strongly that before you can choose the future that you want, there's a future that you have to reject first.
Ooh, okay.
And people miss that rejection. Where you grow up, what your parents' expectations are for you, what your own limitations are for you in your own mind, those all have to be rejected before you can choose where you want to go in life. So I'm just a poor Black kid that grew up in the DC area with two parents, extremely religious household, and they chose poverty. They wouldn't tell you that they chose poverty, but let me tell you why I say that they chose poverty, because I don't believe that we're just a victim of our circumstances. My parents made clear, articulated decisions to be in poverty. My mom was a registered nurse. My dad was coming up in technology. But because of their religion, and I had a lot of siblings, they decided that my mom would stay home with the kids and not work, and that we would live off just my dad's income. Now, I'm one of 7 children. So there's 9 people living off one income, which was really, really small when we could have lived off of 2. But I don't hold them in any ill regard because of the decisions that they made. They did what they thought was right for their kids. They also did what they thought was right religiously and what they thought would get them right with God, to not have their kids in the public school system, but to give us the education that they wanted to by homeschooling their children. I just want to point out, they chose that. And so in choosing that, they cannot act like they're victims of it. And so when I'm growing up and I'm feeling like we're not in control and we're really poor and we don't have enough to make ends meet and the stress is through the roof all the time in order to just try to make things work financially, but an otherwise very happy childhood, it's a feeling of helplessness. And I saw it on my parents, but I felt that helplessness too. And there's so many people that feel helplessness when they're younger, but they never grow up and graduate from the helplessness. They stay in that state of mind. And so before you can unlock what you want for yourself, you got to reject that helplessness feeling and say that that's not going to be what my future is. Then you have to clearly articulate in your mind and envision, what do I want my life to look like? Okay, because I don't know where I'm going. I damn sure am never going to actually get there. Because if you can't envision it, then you can't do what I call reverse engineering and put the steps into place for you to get where you want to go. So my story started with helplessness. I was able to get a big pick-me-up through the military, through the Army, getting an Army ROTC scholarship that got me an education that I otherwise could not have afforded, to get a civil engineering degree and a master's of engineering to go along with that. And I was so entrepreneurial as I was going through that process while I'm in the military and going to school. I was able to start a couple of businesses, fail and learn, and then start a couple that ended up being successful for me while I was still in the military. Get out of the military, and the last 10 years of my life have all been working in businesses that I own and that I control, where my future is controlled not by someone who decides whether or not I can stay employed, but I'm the one who makes the call on that. So many people that feel helplessness, they want to be in control. They'll say they want a lot of things. I want financial freedom. I want this, I want that. What you really want is to be in control. And so how do you go out and achieve that control? You got to start by envisioning what you want, build the steps to reverse engineer that, and then start taking those steps one by one without trying to do all of it at once. It's been true in my life, and I've had a wonderful life because of that. And I want to now help people to transition from that feeling of helplessness and a lack of agency to saying, hey, at 18, at 19, at 20, I'm now responsible for the trajectory of my life. It's not my parents' fault anymore. It's not my environment's fault anymore. There's no one responsible but me. So it's only my choices today that will affect the future that I get. So if I'm not getting where I want to go, it's my choice that stopped me from getting there. And the saddest thing to see is someone who's 35 years old, 40 years old, 50 years old, who's not where they want to be in life, and they're still blaming things that happened in their childhood or things that happened 20 years ago of, oh man, I just can't make it happen because my mom, my dad, I'm stuck with this because of 20 years ago. I say, no, you got to wake up, take some agency for your own decisions, because if you're not there at 50, those are choices that you continued to make that kept you where you're at. So before you get where you want to go, before you know where you want to go, you got to reject where you came from. And that's where my story started as well.
What kind of are some things that helped you reject kind of maybe some of the limiting beliefs or the learned helplessness that you experienced to be able to move towards a vision of what the future was going to be for you? And I'm also curious what that initial future looked like, because I'm sure it's different than where you are today.
It is. It definitely is. Well, there's a couple of things that help you start to reject that past. I was very fortunate in life to have people in my corner who saw more potential in me than I saw in myself. So that's number one. Number two, if you're going to envision what you want for your life and go and achieve it, you don't go from step A to step Z altogether, because you don't have the confidence yet to do that. Confidence comes from small progressions and little steps that you say, I'm going to do this. I do it. I'm more confident now. Now I go to the next one. I do that. I'm more confident now. And we move on. But let's start with the people who are in your life. We are so terrible. I'm sure you saw this when you're working with people in therapy. We are so terrible at introspection and looking at our own lives and being able to articulate what we're capable of, what we have the potential to be one day. And we put these internal limits on ourselves. Some of them are from our childhood. Others, we just think, oh, I can't do that. I don't have the potential to do that. How powerful is it to have people in your life that can look at you and say, you're capable of so much more than you think you are? Like, wake up, do something with your life. We all need friends that'll have that conversation with us. And for me, it was a friend's dad, 2 years younger than me. I've been in college for 2 years at Bible college of all places. I come home, I'm floundering, I don't know what to do. I go to my friend's graduation party, and his dad, who cares about me, I have a relationship with, calls me over to a park bench. And he goes, Steve, what are you doing with your life, man? Like, you left Bible college. I see you just kind of floundering. You're not doing anything. You're working at the local plumbing company as a technician's assistant. But what are you going to do with your life? And I was so taken back that he would call me out like that. I'm a 20-year-old kid at that point. I
Well,
don't
she didn't
know
have
what
to
life's
figure it
about.
out.
Exactly. And this is a guy who'd been in the military. He was a Green Beret. He was hardcore, but he had a very soft heart and he cared about people. And so here's someone that looked at me and he goes, Steve, you got great science scores. You have great math scores. Like, you have so much potential to go do something way more difficult than what you're doing right now. He identified what I now call the default script that I was living in my life. The default script is the life that just happens to you if you never take control of it. And so many of us live that default script. We're born, we go to high school, we maybe go to college or start our first job, we work for 35 or 40 years, and then we retire and then we die, or we die somewhere along that way. That's just the default script that people live. And so he's identifying, hey, if you don't make a change right now, that's how your life's going to go. Is that what you want for your life? You have so much more potential. He saw more potential in me than I saw in myself. And that was a wake-up call for me. And it motivated me to go and take on a step that I never would have taken before. It gave me the confidence to go and apply for an ROTC scholarship because I wanted to go to college, but I couldn't afford a real school. I wanted a good education, but I definitely couldn't afford that. And so I wasn't going to get it otherwise. Someone else woke me up. There was one other person in my life that when I was working at the plumbing company, I worked in the warehouse first. And she was the warehouse manager, and I'm just the little 19-year-old kid who's in there working, trying to stay busy. And I worked an entire summer, and she pulled me aside one day. And I remember her saying, whatever you decide to do in life one day, I don't care what it is, you're going to be successful. I get goosebumps when I just tell you that because I remember what it felt like when I'm just confused. Like, I work in a warehouse. Like, you're the warehouse manager. First of all, like, who are you to say that? And who am I to believe that that's the truth? But those words are powerful. And how many of us can pull somebody else aside and give them that push and motivation to show them that you have so much potential, more than you think that you have? And it's important that any of us who have achieved or can see in someone else's life that we pull them aside and be that person for them. I was so lucky to have people that believed in me when I didn't believe in myself. And now I want to be that person that believes in somebody else and can open up the doors and has the difficult conversation with them that says, what are you doing with your life? You have so much more potential than that. Go do something difficult. Go challenge yourself. Doing hard things and difficult things is what gives you the confidence to take future steps from there. And that bleeds into our second point.
Well, and what I was going to say before you get to that second point is I think you need it at every stage of the journey. I actually had a conversation earlier today with somebody who I did this assessment with, and she was helping me look through some things and really for my own personal development. And there were some things she said to me that, like, even where I think that I've gotten in life, the things that she said to me really were like, I don't know. And it was words of affirmation. It was some things that she kind of saw in me that I hadn't really maybe acknowledged or really valued to the extent. Because in my mind, I'm just like, oh, yeah, everybody's got that gifting or everybody's got that thing. And she just kind of pointed it out to me. And even for me, where I'm at in the stage of journey, I was like, oh, wow. It even opened my mindset up for what else am I limiting myself in that I can even push past through that. So I love that you're talking about the people that saw in you things that you couldn't see in yourself, because I feel like that is 100% true for my journey, even whenever I was that 19, 20, 22, 24, whatever age. I was very fortunate to have people in my life that were like, why don't you do that? Or why you could do that? Or what are you doing right now? You should be able to go over here and do that. So I think that I love how you're like at this point, one of the ways that you can pivot from some of maybe learned beliefs or adopted beliefs about yourself or what's possible for you or what's around is to get around people who can actually see your potential and are not afraid to call it out, and call you out to say, like, I'll never forget one of my mentors said, Christy, why are you working so hard for somebody else's dream?
Hmm.
And I remember that question at that time, it seemed insignificant to me. I was like, what? What are you talking about? But months later, that question sat with me, and I still remember it today as a pivotal turning point of like, oh, wow, you know what I thought wasn't possible, I maybe can jump out and try this thing or build this thing or whatever. So, all right, well, what was number 2? Because I want to hear
We'll
what
get
number
to
2
number
is.
2. I
Yeah,
wanna
okay.
respond to what you just said there because I
Okay.
I really believe that it's so important to have those people in our lives that can give us those wake-up calls. And now on the other side, I'm trying to do that as often as I can to other people and build them up and show them where I think they have potential. And look, Christy, you've been successful, but you're so easy to talk to. People will open up to you in ways that they wouldn't open up to anyone else. And I know that from just sitting here talking to you for 25 minutes before we started and here on the podcast. And when you have that ability, that's an intangible. I don't know that that skill can be learned. It's something that makes you special in who you are. And so understanding where that makes you really unique and where it makes you just, it's the it factor. You've got this
Mhm.
podcast here. The growth and the potential of what this podcast can be is unbelievable because of who you are and the way that you're so
Yeah.
thoughtful and articulating and also the experience to add to the table too. So, okay, let's go on to number 2.
But thank you, Steve. And Steve just did what we just were talking about. And I'll be honest with you. Let me tell you how I felt when you just did this. I was like, oh, thank you, Steve. Like maybe I should keep going on. So it is that thing that we can all gift each other and to be able to call out what our strengths are and that potential. So thank you for sharing
You
that
know
and
what?
for giving me that
And
gift.
and one more thought on that. Your circle matters. So when you talk about rejecting your future, or I'm sorry, when you talk about rejecting the past that you didn't choose, so you can go for a future that you want, who you're around matters. I grew up in poverty, around people who were in poverty. They were not going to give me the advice that I needed to hear to escape from that because they were all living lives of helplessness. So the very first step that you can take to actionably start rejecting the future you didn't choose and go for the one that you want, you got to change your environment to be around people who have a trajectory that are going or already are where you want to go. It, if it's me, you got to leave the hood. So many people would benefit from graduating high school and getting out of town, getting away from their parents, getting away from their friends, starting off somewhere new where you get to choose that word choose. You get to choose where you get to live. You get to choose the city that you go to, the people that you're around. Now, I'm not saying you can go and just join the yacht club. Yeah, we'd all love to do that. But you can choose what city you're in, who you're influenced by. And by changing the environment that you're in, it naturally changes your circle. And changing your circle to get around higher level people that want more for their lives and will want more for your life is a really key way to make sure that you're getting the advice from someone who's saying you have the potential to do so much more, right? If there's people who are going somewhere and you're not, and you get around them, they're either gonna pull you up with them or tell them, "You can't hang out with us anymore." Like, that's just the way it is, okay? Change your
This is
circle.
true.
It's such a
This is
good way
true.
to get started on the
Well,
journey.
and you're reminding me too. I used to work for a few years where I actually met some of my closest friends today. It's a program called the Youth Challenge Program. I don't know if you've ever heard of it,
I have
but
not.
it's
Mm.
typically for high school students that maybe are either behind in school or maybe they've had some adversity that the regular typical school system is not working for them. So it's ran by the National Guard, okay? And they go for this like 6-month intensive, it's kind of like a little boot campish,
Mm,
Steve. But they learn things like, discipline and self-respect and teamwork, but they're also working on getting their GED equivalent, which is like the high set now. And I used to work with a lot of these kids that would come in the program because I was a counselor there at the time. And we would always kind of talk about this because one of the biggest challenges that I always saw is they would come, get a new lease on life, get so much confidence, get away from some of the environment that was not conducive to their learning or just their personal growth. And one of the biggest challenges that I would see is if they went back to the same environment and if they did not have different supports that would help hold them accountable and also encourage them to continue down the path of reaching their fullest potential, it would be like a 360 and they'd go right back to the way things were. But I think
yeah.
we often don't give enough credit to how much that environment really does influence our mindset, our habits, our choices. And so I really appreciated how you said sometimes you just got to change your complete landscape And it sucks because you're right. You're going to have to let go of people, places, sometimes things to be able to step into a new version of where you want to go. But you have to let go of it. So I'm just reinforcing your point of what you're talking about because I would see it so much. And it was hard because you could see these kids that would thrive, like thriving. And I would try to work with them to be like, look, your friends are going to come calling. They're going to come back. As soon as you set foot in that house, they're going to come back. But I think even as an adult, if we're not willing to change some of our people, places, and things, but we want a future that looks different than what maybe the people, places, and things around us look like, then it's going to be hard because, it's hard to bring people with you because they ultimately, like you said, will sometimes drag you down versus, coming along. So
That is so well said, and it's so true. And I've seen it so many times. And for anyone who says, I can't afford to leave, I say, join the military. Well, I'm 16 years old. Okay, that's a fair argument. By definition, as a child with a legal guardian, you are not in control. There's someone who's in control of you. So those formative years, there's little that you can do unless your parent, your guardian, is making those decisions for you. Agency begins the moment you turn 18. Now life's in your control. And now you get to decide what happens in the future. And so if you can afford to leave, great, do it. If you can't afford to leave, join the Army. They'll give you an all-expense paid trip anywhere in the world, but you will be around people that will challenge you. You will do very difficult things. And that's a great segue into our second point of how you reject the future you didn't choose. You've got to build confidence. You have to have the confidence to know that you can achieve more than your parents thought was possible for you, than you thought was possible, than the environment was producing kids to go and do these amazing things. So where does confidence come from? You're not going to go from the hood to go and be an Elon Musk and, launching Starlink and SpaceX and all the rest of that. There's a pattern. Confidence comes from iterative successes, one after another. You got to change your mindset first to say, hey, when I put my mind to do something and I say I'm going to do it and I tell people I'm going to do it, I do it. So how do you do that? It's pretty simple. You start getting really vocal about the things you're going to do and you actually do it. It can start really small. What's that book? Make Your Bed? Tell yourself, I'm going to make my bed in the morning when I get up. And you're going to tell your roommate, I'm making my bed in the morning when I get up. If I haven't done it, hold me accountable to that. And then you actually do it. But as you progressively get more and higher levels of responsibility that you give yourself, and then you achieve those goals, the goal is to do the easy stuff to build up enough confidence so you can start doing some of the harder things in life. That might be, hey, you know what? I'm going to start a side hustle this year that brings in $1,000 extra. Don't shoot for 10K or 100K. Start with 1,000 and then tell someone how you're going to do it. Go make a plan and then execute on that plan. Now, it's not extremely difficult to make $1,000, but you need to tell your mind that you're capable of going and figuring out a problem because you don't know how to do it today. You make a plan, you execute on it, you fail, you iterate that plan, and you find a way to get it done. And you tell yourself two things. Number one, I am really resourceful. I didn't know how I was going to do it, but I made a goal and I made it happen. And number two, I could do it so much easier if I was doing it again. The second time around is always easier. The 100th time around, it's inevitable you're going to be successful. But that only comes from you having those smaller iterative successes. And so when you see someone who's achieved something phenomenal and you say, I want that, ask the question, do you think they just woke up one day and that happened? Or did they build a body of work, an iterative success, building on top of accomplishing something, more confidence, I can do that thing now. I could do it so much easier the second time around. I accomplished something larger. I have more confidence. Confidence is something that is built over time, and it's the building blocks of confidence that lead you to really big success. And so when people don't have confidence or they never accomplished anything, they look at someone that's built a $100 million company and they say, that's not attainable. And you know what? They're right. It's not attainable until you start building those building blocks of confidence and achieving things. And then one day you wake up and you've accomplished a $20 million business and you go, you know what my next goal is? I want to build $100 million. and you don't know how to do it, there's always that delta between where you are and where you want to go. But you have the confidence that I figured out 20. Why can't I figure out 100? But that's all built on these building blocks of confidence. You see it with children when they're being raised. A child doesn't walk 20 steps in a row. They take one step first and they fall down flat on their face. Hopefully they're on some soft carpet. We teach them these lessons, that one step and then two and then three. But in life, too many adults are looking for really quick success without building the body of work that goes along to give them both the confidence and the knowledge that they are capable of actually doing that, and that there's someone who does what they say they're going to do. So a really big part of rejecting your past is starting to have the pattern of iterative successes that teaches you, man, I can do anything I put my mind to. And you learn in that process the power of repetition, that you can get good at anything just by doing it over and over and over again. And guess what? You don't have to be world class. World class requires repetition and raw talent. We don't have to have world class. We just want to be top 10%. There's nothing you can do 100 times and not be top 10% if you put your mind to it, because you start to learn around the 50th attempt or the 70th attempt what not to do and a little bit of what to do. And so much of success is learning what doesn't work. So you stop spending your time and effort on that and focus on the things that showed a little bit of sign that, ooh, there's some fire there. Like this might actually work. Yeah. And you start doing more and more of that. And ultimately you end up with success. But what you really learn in success is a whole lot of what not to do. And that's why failure is the building blocks of success. I like to say that success is a side effect of lots of failure and repetitive failure.
100%. And well, I'm curious, as you're talking about the iterations and you're like, pretty much painting the picture for you listening, that it's not always a straight line and it doesn't just happen overnight, is what I'm hearing you say. But I'm curious, what if you were able to, I think about this, like I think about everything I've learned through all the iterations. And I'm thinking to myself, if I would have just jumped to that success or whatever it was, achievement or goal that I was able to reach, and I hadn't had the building blocks, I wouldn't have been able to hold it, And so I don't know if you feel the same way in your journey. Like if you would have just jumped from tech plumbing, then all the way up to wherever you ended whenever you were in the Army, or to then, straight into the highest success that you've been able to do in entrepreneurship. Like, would you have been able to hold all that?
I'll tell you.
Without the iterations in between?
We can all play the lottery and we can all win the lottery. Now, you see someone that has a $100 million business. I don't care if they made it in a year or if it took them 50 years to do it. They won a lottery in order to get to a business that's that successful. You can know all the stuff in the world about business and never achieve heights like that.
True.
It takes an element of luck. It takes the stars aligning. So here's the goal. We all hear these stories about people who do these incredible things. And we always ask, hey, were they good or did they just get lucky? Well, doesn't really matter at the end of the day because they are the exception. They're not the rule. But the rule is doing what's tried and true over and over again and building the building blocks of success. That's what ultimately gets you there. Now, if I win the lottery and I win $100 million tomorrow, I'm terrified, just like you, Chris, because I don't know how I made this. I pay my taxes on. I just lost 60% of it, and I don't know how to hold on to it.
Somebody, please teach me what I need to do with this money now, so I don't lose most of it. That it's invested properly. And I'm sure I'm going to get 100 different opinions too about what I should do with said money.
Yeah, from a bunch of people that don't know how to manage money themselves or have never had $100 million, right? So we all want to win the lottery. The lottery, like we aspire to win the lottery. And I mean that figuratively and literally. But if you build success slowly over time, where you're adding confidence with each step and there's a body of work that led you where you are, you have so much confidence that when you achieve it, you're like, what's the next step down? This is now my worst case scenario. So I've got the $1 million business and now I went to 5. I have all this extra money with $5 million a year coming in. But I already know my worst case scenario is, hey, I have all the confidence in the world that the $1 million business, I can do that over again. Remember what we said? Oh, the next time I do that, it's going to be so easy because I know how I got here in the first place. There's a difference in someone who built slowly from scratch to achieve what they have, where they go, I know exactly how I did it. and I could do it again if I had to. I know exactly how much work it was. I know that I'm willing to do that work, but I have the confidence that I can do it again because I've been there, done it. And when I started the process, I didn't even know where to start, but look where I came. That's compound interest of your knowledge that comes from the iterative successes that you've had that get you to this place. Case in point, the business that I've been in for the last 7 years, really short and simple, we make little soaps and shampoos for hotel rooms. And I brought that onto Amazon for Airbnbs back when nobody else was doing it. And so we got first mover advantage, and it was really
Who
ultimately
knows? I've
successful.
probably gotten one of these packets whenever I'm at an Airbnb too.
I bet you
Little
have.
box that has the stuff in it. Yeah.
That's right. Little boxes, you see any little tubes, more like in an Airbnb, it's more than likely one of the 14 brands that I sold in my company.
Okay.
And the beautiful thing about that is I built all of it from scratch. I still own the company today, but I'm not active in it. My first employee, we ended up hiring 25 more employees. He runs the business along with those 25. I have zero responsibility in the business, but about once a month, he gives me a call and he asked me to consult him on, hey, here's what's going on. I'm having these issues over here. And guess what? Because I built it all from scratch, I have all the confidence in the world to help him on any problem that he has along the way because I walked through that journey. But here's the key. I want him to walk through that journey with me as a consultant. I don't want to just pull him up to where I'm at and say, boom, you got it. It's all good. Because he needs the body of work as well. He needs to have the confidence as well. If he doesn't have that confidence that I have, then every question comes to me. And so ultimately, I want him to feel as confident and comfortable in the business as I do. So we do that consulting call once a month, but I have all the confidence in the world because I've been there and I've done it. If I got lucky to get where I was, I wouldn't be a very effective consultant inside of it.
Yeah.
And so everybody wants that lottery ticket to just get to success, but building the body of work will give you the confidence that when you achieve the success, you know how to do it again and you know how to keep the success that you found. And that's really an unspoken point when it comes to confidence and success, but it helps you to reject the future that you didn't choose as you are on the pathway to achieving the one that you want for your life.
Well, and I think one of the things that came to mind whenever you're sharing that too is it's almost the confidence. You said earlier, resourcefulness. And I don't know about you, but I feel a lot more confident than I ever did that I don't know everything. In fact, I absolutely know I know probably like a very small, like tiny grain of sand of all there is to know, you know? And however, I have learned through multiple iterations, as I'm sure you have too, is that I might not know the answer, but I sure am dang resourceful. And I'll find somebody who does. And we're going to work at this problem until some solution either emerges or I realize it's not a problem to solve anymore. And so I love how you said you have to help other people build that confidence into that whatever role, because I can even think about people that have worked with me before. And, you know, they would used to come ask me questions. And I used to hate when my mentor used to do this 100%. I hated it. But she would always be like, what do you think the answer is? Or like, what's your solutions? Or where do you think you should go next? And I'd be like, but I just want you to give me the answer. But what I learned in hindsight after having her as a mentor for many years as I was working in the profession I am in now, but was that really she was just teaching me how to be resourceful. She could have gave me the answer, but it doesn't mean that I would have learned how to find the answer. And I think that's something that I'm hearing you kind of share is like you have to allow yourself to learn, mess up, try again. And over time that builds confidence for you to realize, oh, okay. Well, I don't know about that problem or that obstacle or that thing that I want to get to, but I sure know that I can figure it out.
That's so right. I mean, ultimately, all of us want to be in control. And being in control doesn't mean that you have all the answers. But being in control does mean I'm okay not knowing and having a goal that I want to get to or a problem that I want to solve because I know how to be resourceful and go and do it because I've done it before. And I know that the process of learning how to do it is going to involve failure, where I'm going to go back to the drawing board. I'm going to try something else. And all of that experimentation, but having the confidence to know I'm going to figure this out. I don't know when, but I'm going to figure this out because I've built a body of work to prove to myself long before I prove to others. I'm proving to myself that I can figure out difficult things. And that only comes from taking on difficult tasks that you don't know the answer to today. And so for anyone who's not willing to say, oh, I don't know how to do that. Oh, I'm not capable of learning anything with AI. I'm not good with technology. Why are you limiting yourself by saying that? Never say that out loud. Never say that out loud, that you aren't good at or you can't figure that, because you can. And when you say, I'm not good at, or I'm not the type of person that does, you're giving yourself an excuse to not try because it seems like a mountain that's too high that you don't want to go up. Stop the excuses and instead take on a challenge and teach yourself that you're capable of figuring out anything you put your mind to. And guess what? You don't have to figure it out in a day.
Yeah.
A lot of things in life that are meaningful are extremely uphill. They're difficult, takes a long time to get there. There's so much failure and there's dips and valleys along the way. But ultimately, you get to the mountaintop, and it was all about that journey of getting there, what it taught you, both the confidence, the resourcefulness, and you now have this bravado that says, I know how to figure out stuff. I got that. And so when I talk to you, Christine, you're articulating that what I call control. I love to see that because that's where I'm trying to get so many people who are starting where I started with helplessness to say, no, agency and control. You can achieve control. You are responsible for your decisions, but you have to wake up and understand that life is difficult and success in life is really difficult. And if you aren't teaching yourself today that you're capable of doing difficult things and complex things that require months and years to come to fruition, you will stay right where you are, talking to your friends about all the excuses of why you can't go and better your life because this is holding you back. And your mom told you this yesterday and your dad won't let you. Let's stop all of that and realize we are the ones in control. It's our decision.
Yeah.
And we are capable of what we allow ourselves to take on, not what we know how to do today.
Yeah. Well, you're making me think of that quote or whoever said it. And I know you've probably heard it before, but it's like, choose your hard. It's going to be hard no matter which way it's going to go.
Yeah.
But maybe if you choose the hard that actually will ultimately lend you to where you envision yourself to get to, then, I mean, that's the hard. I'd rather be on that journey than the other hard.
I agree with that 100%. I absolutely love that quote. And look, I talk about business a lot. I'm a business guy. I started 12 different businesses in my life. Not everybody wants to be a business owner.
Yeah.
I'm not against a 9-to-5, and I'm not against you starting a business or taking on risks the way that I did things. But what I'm saying is, what future do you want? Is it owning a business? Is it having a 9-to-5? Either one you choose, where's the control inside of that? Because I still want you to be in control with a 9-to-5, the same way you're in control in a business. Both of a business and a 9-to-5 job can both be bondage. You can be tied to both of them, unable to leave doing things that you hate, and you can't stop doing them. I know a ton of business owners who you would think they have a bunch of freedom because they're making a bunch of money, but between their lifestyle and between the fact that they haven't delegated much in the business, they're stuck making the money that they're making. They have to continue doing it, so it's very high stress. And on top of that, they're doing a lot of the work themselves. That's not the business ownership that I want to be involved in. And how many people that have a 9-to-5 job have pushed their lifestyle to the edge of their income where working for them is no longer optional? Instead of it being optional, they have to maintain that job. And not just that job, they have to maintain that exact income because they pushed themselves to the edge. With every progressive raise, they bought a new car and they financed it. Another progressive raise, they moved to a new house and they financed it. Well, now you need that job and you can't take a pay cut. And so I tell people, I'm okay with you having a 9-to-5 job. I have no issue with that. I'm not saying you have to go start a business, but if you're going to have a 9-to-5 job or have a business, you still better make damn sure that you've got 12 months of expenses saved up and that your lifestyle is such that you can live on 50% of your income. Why 50%? Because if you lose your job tomorrow, I'm pretty sure you can get a job that pays at least half. Okay, if you can cover that, that's a stress-free life right there. But if you are living on the edge of your means where things have to go right for you, stress completely on. You see this all the time with stay-at-home moms, and you got the dad who's out working, and then the kids grow up, and then you have a stay-at-home mom who starts and gets a job for the first time. Now there's extra money. The trap that everyone falls into is when the stay-at-home mom goes to work for the first time, they're making an extra fill-in-the-blank number of dollars per year, and immediately take on debt to finance a new car, a new house, a new RV, a new boat, or something to spend that money. Now, Mom is locked into that job for the length and duration of the loan that they got. If it's a house, you're locked into that job for 30 years. Did you want to work for 30 years or were you just signing up for some extra money? That's the trap that so many people fall into, where it's living on the edge of their lifestyle and then more income comes in, increase the lifestyle. It's very hard to go backwards on lifestyle. You can't go to the bank and say, hey, I don't actually have that job anymore that I got when I got the house. Can we like get rid of this mortgage and go to a different one? Like, well, yeah, if you sell the house, right? But
Yeah.
so many of us fall into this trap where now we need the job. We got the job because we wanted to have extra money. Now we need the job. Now we can't live without the job. Now stress is on because, oh, I heard there's going to be layoffs this week. I need this. I can't lose this job. If I lose this job, what happens? Like, my car going to get repossessed? That's stress that we don't need. And so being in control, so much of that is being disciplined with lifestyle to say, what is my income? I'm going to live on half of what my income is. Of course, I want to save, but if I know I can live on half of that income, I have so much less stress about my employment. So it doesn't matter if you're a business owner or you're working a 9 to 5. Being in control involves you having a safety net built up and knowing that you can secure future employment that has enough income to fund the lifestyle without the lifestyle changing. And that's the beginning of a very stress-free life. Ultimately, we're all looking for control. So control, we can say that we're free. I work because I want to work, not I work because I'm forced to work. If the work conditions change, I don't like it anymore, guess what? I'm out of here. I don't need this job. We all say that, but how many people really do need the job?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
How many of them actually do have a backup plan that involves them saying, I could just take 5 months off of work and not think twice about it? The statistics would say very few people are in that situation. We can see what personal credit looks like. We can see what personal savings looks like across the board. It doesn't look very good. So when anyone says to me, I don't need this job, I go, I think you do. I think you probably do.
Yeah. Well, and I feel like we could probably go do a whole nother podcast episode just on that, because I was just talking about the other day when I was walking with one of my friends after we had worked out. I'm like, if there's one thing I wish that they really could teach in schools these days is financial literacy, is because it's just the reality is people don't realize that they sometimes create. Well, I guess you said, I don't know if you said the word bondage or entrapment, whatever, but it is due to pushing that lifestyle as the income increases and not being able to figure out, okay, what do I need to feel like I do have the agency to say, if this is not working for me anymore, I can leave and I don't feel entrapped by this responsibility for all these financial obligations that sometimes happen and then limit people from being able to take the jump. And I'll be honest with you, on my journey, sometimes I think about just how I was able to get here. And part of it was because, I always joked and say I could live with a little and live with a lot, but like literally could be able to do that because I was able to take chances and actually go pursue some of my dreams because of what you're talking about, like living within enough margin to where if I don't have a job for this many months, then I will at least survive. Will it look pretty? Maybe not, but I'll be able to pay my bills. I'll have the agency to choose. And like you said, a lot of people sometimes can't make that jump because they've gotten in such a, I think it's trillions of dollars of personal debt that is in the United States as a whole. But anyways, that's a whole nother podcast episode.
We'll do that on the next one.
We'll do that on the next one because it really does. I think sometimes that part is also a limiting factor. And then it's like you have to do the work to say, okay, what do I need to change or what do I need to sacrifice or what do I need to say no to so that we can get in a place where there's more financial security to where we can choose these other options for our life, But
yeah, and I've got one alternate point of view for you on the first point you started with, where I wish people always say, I hear them say, I wish they would teach financial literacy in schools.
Okay, what would you
and
say?
I go, you know what?
Curious.
I don't know if that would actually solve the problem because they teach history in school, but kids don't know history. They teach science in school, kids don't know science. So what makes us believe that if they taught financial literacy in school, kids would know financial literacy? I think that everything in life that you're self-taught. By and large, you're self-taught. And so most people are never going to be financially literate because they will not choose to be self-taught. Because being self-taught in financial literacy requires accountability of their spending. It requires putting a plan in place and then sticking to it. And most people have chosen to not let themselves be capable of that because they aren't committing to themselves in the small stuff first. And so their finances is just a mirror and reflection of the rest of their lives of not being committed to progressive success. So that's my alternate point of view. I don't think that adding it to the school system would change anything because most of the kids can't read anyway, right?
Well, I mean, you do bring a good point. I mean, you can have knowledge, but the reality is applied knowledge. You can learn something, but unless you take, or even a tool, you can have a tool, but it's not useful unless you know how to use it and you actually go and use it. So,
That's right.
you gave me something to think about. Maybe so. Maybe it's not financial literacy. Maybe it's like, and it could be the love of self-learning. How do you learn? How do you learn to learn? I don't know.
Yes. Well,
Stay
it brings up
tuned.
a
We're going to
great
solve
point.
that world's problem next.
I do think that, just kind of a final thought on this, everyone's interested in different things. Right now, all the metrics are reading, writing, and arithmetic. Well, if you don't like chemistry, if you aren't into math, then we call you dumb because you score really low on these standardized tests. My wife's a great example of this. She's always scored low on all the standardized stuff. She'd be the first one to tell you, I'm not breaking news here. She'd be the first one to tell you I'm not good at school, right? She loves reading about nutrition. Nutrition would literally put me to sleep and bore me to death, but she loves reading about nutrition. All of us have these natural interests and inclinations where we would listen to a podcast about something, watch documentaries about it, or read books about it, where we will gather knowledge about it. Everyone should take some time to take stock. What are the things that you are naturally interested in? You're not dumb. You're not stupid. You just weren't designed to be rated off of reading, writing, and arithmetic. Find the thing you're interested in, whether it's underwater basket weaving or chemistry, and go immerse yourself into that because you're going to find you'll be successful in the thing that you're interested in. Why? Because success takes 5, 6, 7 years of compound interest, and it's going to become work at some point. Whatever you're doing that you enjoy will become work at some point. And if you don't actually like it, if you aren't naturally interested in it, the moment it becomes work, you will stop doing the thing. And you will end up quitting early when you could have achieved the success that comes on the back end of that. So find what you're interested in and pursue that because that's probably where you'll find the most success. It's probably where you're going to get the compound interest and probably where you'll push through when things get difficult.
Yeah, I love that. Well, and it makes me think of that quote about if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, then, it'll spend its whole life thinking, well, it wasn't supposed to be on a tree to begin with.
That's
It ain't
right.
dumb. It's just in the wrong environment. Okay. So,
I
well,
love that.
Steve, I know our time is coming to the end. We're going to have to do round 2 of this at some point. But what is your one? I would love for you to kind of say what's your one takeaway that you hope people that read the future you choose. What's like the one thing that you want readers to take away? And if you're listening, go grab your copy because it's out now. But
Go
what's
grab a
maybe the one
copy.
takeaway?
You can find this at steverolle.com. It's my first name and last name.com. And it's available for order right now. The main takeaway for someone who's reading this book, I want people to be in control of their own lives. I want them to be able to achieve the freedom that I feel, the control that I feel in my own life as well. And that didn't come from me from just getting lucky. Did I have leg ups and opportunities? You betcha. But it came from me proving to myself first, I'm not the kid that grew up helpless anymore. My parents' decisions in no way affect how my life has turned out, regardless of what anyone thinks. At this point, I'm fully in control. And so the future I choose starts with rejecting the future that I didn't choose for me. And part 1 of this book is all about the mindset of shifting and saying, I'm in control. I have agency. It's all based on me. And people can go out and build that confidence over time through these progressive successes we talked about today. So if you want to get a copy of the book, it's at steverolle.com. And Christy, thank you for the opportunity to come on and talk about the book today.
Yeah. Well, listen, I just want to acknowledge you for really honestly just coming on today and sharing your words of wisdom, but also really, taking those iterations and doing your own body of work to get you where you're at today. Because, you had to go through the iterations to get you to the place where you're like, hey, you know what? There were people in my life that spoke into me. Now I want to speak back into other people to hopefully help them realize that they do have agency over their life and they can choose a different possibility for themselves. So, Steve, I've thoroughly enjoyed this conversation. Thank you for coming on the show today. I do have one final question to ask you, but if you were to go back to younger Steve right before maybe he was that plumbing technician and he was working in that warehouse and he maybe didn't realize 100% that he had agency to choose, is there one piece of advice or word of encouragement that you would have wanted gifted younger Steve if you could go back and shake him in the warehouse and tell him something?
If I could shake myself, the younger version of myself, and tell myself to wake up, the things I would tell myself is, you are capable of so much more than you think through hard work and repetition and discipline. But you'll prove that to yourself by going out and doing difficult and complex things. So take on the challenge and don't just take the default script and the easy path.
Yeah. Well, you know what? That is a perfect wrap up. As you guys know, I'll leave y'all with one thing to take away today. But Steve just gave it to you. Go out there and take on the challenge. Possibilities await. There are a different version of your life or future if you choose it. So just go out there, choose the hard, take on the challenge, and then let us know how it works out for you. Can't wait to have you back next time. Thanks for listening.
That's all for today on Inspiring Possible. If you found a little inspiration today, please go on over to iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you tune in to listen to leave us a comment and rate us. Also, make sure and link up with me at inspiringpossible.com to get the free Dream It, Write It, Do It workbook. And don't forget to follow us on social media and share this with anyone who needs to be inspired. Remember, if you can believe it, it's possible.